There is no job in London, is there? My voice was barely above a whisper as I stared at the email on my laptop screen. The messages between Daniel and someone named Kate filled the screen, revealing months of carefully planned deception. My hands trembled slightly as I scrolled through the words that shattered everything I believed in. It was all a lie. My husband, Daniel, stood in the middle of our nearly empty living room. There was nothing left, not the couch we had spent hours choosing together, not the coffee table where we had once laughed over late-night conversations. Everything had been sold, given away, or discarded in preparation for our supposed fresh start in London. Except there was no job in London. Daniel didn't answer me. His silence spoke louder than any words could. He knew I had figured it out. He had been caught, and now there was nothing left for him to say. My name is Selene Harris. Until this moment, I thought I was preparing for a new adventure, a bold, exciting chapter in our lives. For the last 10 years, I had built a successful career as a financial analyst at Parker & Reed, a company I had grown to love. I was proud of the stability and security I had created for myself and Daniel. Then, 3 months ago, Daniel came home with big news. He told me he had landed an incredible opportunity in London. It was a once-in-a-lifetime chance, he had said, something that would set us up for an amazing future. I didn't hesitate to support him. That's what partners do, right? They believe in each other. They make sacrifices for one another. So, I did what any devoted wife would do. I sold our house. The first home I had ever owned, the place where I had put down roots, was gone in a matter of weeks. I donated the furniture we had chosen so carefully, piece by piece. I even sold my grandmother's antique mirror, the only thing I had left of her, because Daniel insisted we needed to travel light. Now I understood why he had been so insistent. How long? I asked, my voice steadier now as anger replaced the initial shock. How long have you been planning this with her? Daniel shifted uncomfortably, his gaze flickering toward the suitcase by the door, the suitcase he had packed, ready to leave before I ever discovered the truth. Selene, how long? I cut him off, refusing to let him squirm out of this. He hesitated before finally admitting, 8 months, Kate and I, it just happened, and then the plan just sort of evolved. Evolved. Like it was something natural, like betraying your wife, deceiving her into giving up everything, was just a normal progression of events. I felt sick. I thought about all the nights he had come home late, the trips he had taken without much explanation, the way he had pushed me to liquidate all of my assets. He had been setting this up for months, making sure I had nothing left before he walked away. The money's already gone, isn't it? I asked, even though I already knew the answer. I was a financial analyst. After all, I should have seen the warning signs, but love makes you blind, and I had trusted him completely. Daniel didn't deny it, he just gave a small shrug, as if this was all some unfortunate circumstance rather than something he had orchestrated. You'll land on your feet, he said casually, reaching for his suitcase. You always do. Something inside me shifted at that moment. He was right about one thing, I always landed on my feet, and this time would be no different. As the door clicked shut behind him, I took a deep breath. I could sit here and drown in my anger and heartbreak, or I could do something about it. I opened my laptop and began to type. Daniel had no idea who he was dealing with. I met Daniel 6 years ago at a financial technology conference in Minneapolis. He was charming, ambitious, and full of big dreams. He worked for a smaller firm at the time, but he had plans to make it to the top. What I didn't realize then was that his ambition would eventually consume everything, including our marriage. Looking back, I see the warning signs I ignored, the way he always seemed to take more than he gave, the way he convinced me to use my promotion bonus to fund his first business venture instead of celebrating my success. It's an investment in our future, he had said. I believed him. That was my first mistake, but far from my last. For years, I supported him, both emotionally and financially. When his first business failed, I worked overtime to keep us afloat. When he wanted to try again, I took out a loan against my retirement savings to fund it. Each time, he swore it would be different. Each time, I believed him. My cousin, Nina, tried to warn me last year. Selene, she said over coffee, don't you think it's strange that Daniel never lets you get involved in his business decisions? You're literally a financial analyst. I defended him. He doesn't want to burden me. Besides, he's my husband. I trust him. Trust, what a foolish word that seemed now. The signs had been there all along, the late-night phone calls, the secretive business trips, the sudden push to sell our assets and convert everything to cash. In total, I had nearly $400,000 from the house sale and another $200,000 from my investments, all of it converted to cash, just as he suggested, to make our move easier. All of it gone. Transferred to accounts I couldn't trace. The irony wasn't lost on me. I spent my days analyzing financial transactions, detecting fraud, and preventing corporations from being swindled. Yet, I had failed to see the betrayal unfolding in my own home. But that was over now. I had been blind before, but my eyes were wide open now. And Daniel was about to learn exactly what that meant. I picked up my phone and dialed the number. My hands trembled slightly, but my voice was steady when he answered. "Daniel, you won't get away with this," I said firmly, my anger bubbling just beneath the surface. For a moment, there was silence on the other end. And then, he laughed. A low, smug chuckle that made my skin crawl. "Get away with what, Selene?" he said smoothly. "You signed everything over willingly. Go ahead and check the paperwork. You, of all people, should understand, you're the financial expert, after all." I gritted my teeth, my grip tightening around the phone. "I'll fight this," I said through clenched teeth. "I'll take you to court." Daniel didn't even sound fazed. If anything, he sounded amused. "With what money?" "Face it, Selene. It's over. Move on." The call ended with a soft click, but the silence that followed was deafening. The weight of his betrayal crashed down on me all at once, and for the first time since this nightmare began, I broke. I sank to the floor, surrounded by papers, documents I had been frantically searching through, hoping to find some loophole, some mistake. But there was none. My home, my savings, my retirement, everything I had spent years building was gone. All of it, taken away by the man I had once trusted. Tears blurred my vision as sobs racked my body. I didn't hear Nina enter the room until I felt her sit beside me, her presence grounding me in a way I desperately needed. "I've lost everything," I whispered, my voice barely audible. "Everything I worked for is just gone." Nina didn't hesitate. She reached for one of the bank statements, her eyes scanning the numbers before she looked at me with determination. "Not everything," she said firmly. "You still have your skills, your intelligence, and you have me." Her words struck something deep inside me. She was right. Daniel had manipulated me, deceived me, but he hadn't taken everything. I still had my expertise. I was one of the best financial analysts at Parker & Reed, and I had access to resources that could track money trails far more effectively than personal bank searches. An idea sparked in my mind, and for the first time in days, I felt something other than despair. The next morning, I made a call. "Linda, I need to take some vacation days," I said as soon as she answered. "And I need a favor." Linda, my supervisor and one of the few people I trusted, listened carefully as I explained what had happened. When I finished, there was a long pause. "You understand what you're asking, right?" she said finally. "Using company resources for personal matters is against policy." I exhaled slowly. "I know. But I also know how much money I've saved this company over the years. I've never asked for anything in return, until now." Another pause. Then, a sigh. "You have 2 weeks of vacation time," she said. "What you do with that time is your business. Just, be careful, Selene. And don't do anything illegal." Relief flooded through me. "Thank you, Linda." That night, I sat at my laptop, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. Daniel thought he had won. He thought he had broken me. But he was about to learn a hard lesson: never underestimate a woman who knows how to follow the money. Using Parker & Reed's financial tracking software after hours felt strange, but I pushed aside the guilt. This wasn't about revenge anymore, it was about justice. As I ran the data through the system, something caught my eye. A pattern. "They got sloppy," I told Nina over breakfast the next morning. "They thought they covered their tracks, but they made rookie mistakes." "What kind of mistakes?" she asked, leaning forward. "Kate's been moving money between accounts, trying to hide the trail, but she's using a pattern, transferring funds every 3 days, always in specific amounts. The software picked up on it immediately. But that wasn't even the biggest revelation. As I dug deeper, my stomach twisted. This wasn't just about me. Daniel and Kate had been running a Ponzi scheme through his consulting business. They had defrauded at least 6 other people before targeting me. My hands shook as I scrolled through the evidence, names, dates, amounts. It was all there. They had tricked people into investing, faked returns for a few months, then disappeared with the money. I wasn't their first victim. I was just their biggest one yet. I called Sarah, my lawyer, immediately. "This changes everything," she said after I explained. "We're no longer looking at a divorce dispute. We're looking at wire fraud and investment fraud. This is federal territory now." But I wasn't ready to go to the authorities yet. I needed more proof. And I had another card to play. I reached out to Marcus, an old college friend who now worked at the bank where Kate had opened her newest account. Over coffee, I laid everything out. "Jesus, Selene," he murmured, flipping through the documents. "This is serious stuff." "I know," I said. "That's why I need your help." What happened next was like watching dominoes fall. Marcus flagged Kate's account for suspicious activity, triggering an automatic freeze, right when they were closing on another investment property. The timing was perfect. Within hours, my phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. "What did you do?" It was Kate. The first sign of panic. I didn't respond. Instead, I forwarded all my evidence to the other victims I'd identified. One by one, they came forward, each with their own story of betrayal. That evening, Linda called me. "Selene, we've been contacted by the FBI about some irregular transactions you flagged in our system." I took a deep breath. "I can explain everything." "No need," she said. "I already told them you had my authorization to use the software. They want to meet with you tomorrow." That night, I stared at my laptop screen. I had access to one more nuclear option. Daniel had always used the same password for everything. I typed it in. It worked. There it was, every conversation with Kate, every plan they had made, every lie they had told. I downloaded everything. My finger hovered over the forward button. With one click, I could send it all to his entire professional network. I thought about how he had laughed on the phone, so sure of his victory. The old Selene might have hesitated. Might have shown mercy. But I wasn't the old Selene anymore. I clicked send. The fallout was immediate. Daniel's career, his reputation, everything crumbled in a matter of hours. He must have been bombarded with calls and emails because finally, he messaged me. "You've ruined me. Are you happy now?" I stared at the message, feeling nothing but cold determination. "No, Daniel. I'm just getting started."